Thank you very much, Randy. Let's go right back to the phone callers. Next up is Ronald, listening in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Hi, Ronald.
Hi, Hank. How are you?
Good, thank you.
First of all, thank you, Hank, for your ministry and making this show very lively and very active, though.
Well,
I appreciate all your input. Thank you so much. I guess my question is more like getting your input. I just wanted to get some insight from you as to the summarized history of the Bible, where it came from, how it came about, who has the original manuscript of the Bible, and who has the authority to kind of translate that to all the versions that we have right now in English, and who gave them that authority, I would say. I'm going to hang up my phone, Hank, and I'm going to continue listening to my radio. Again, more power to your show, and God bless you.
Well, thank you very much for that question, and I have written about this in my book, Has God Spoken? Memorable Proofs for the Bible's Divine Inspiration. What is so wonderful about the Bible is that we have the text of Scripture preserved in the autographs, and through the tenacity of the text, the autographs or the original writings emerge. So we have manuscripts that were taken care of in meticulous fashion by the Old Testament copyists, and therefore Jesus could put his imprimatur on the Old Testament, saying that not a single jot or tittle would disappear from the law until everything had been fulfilled. In terms of the New Testament, we also have some 5,600 manuscripts, and those manuscripts are a treasury by which we can get back to the autograph so we can know for certain that within the manuscript, God has preserved his word. It isn't preserved by an ecclesiastical authority, but rather it is approved of in the manuscripts themselves. But as far as the English Bible is concerned, the genesis of the English Bible was in the writings of Oxford theologian John Wycliffe. He was called the Morning Star of the Reformation, and his translations from the 1380s remained the only English Bible until the invention of movable type in the 16th century. And I should note that putting Scripture into the hands of the laity was considered such an outrage against the authority of the church that 44 years after he had died, Pope Martin V had his bones unearthed, incinerated, and the ashes thrown to the wind. But like his ashes, the legacy of the English Bible spread abroad in the years to come. No single person, I would say, made a greater contribution to the legacy of the English Bible than did William Tyndale. He purposed to make the Bible available to the commoner so that a boy who drives the plow would be as familiar with the Bible as was the Pope. And his work became the basis for a plethora of translations, culminating with the King James Version, which was commissioned in 1604 and completed in 1611 and became the most cherished Bible in the English-speaking world. And if you look at the linguistic artistry and stylistic majesty of the King James Version, you find an enduring reverence for the author, God himself. And the legacy of the King James Bible we find in the ethos and the mores and the civil liberties, the art, the language, the science, the jurisprudence of Western civilization. So while we now live in the shadow of the Bible, our civilization once lived in the pages of the Bible. I should also note that the King James Version would likely have remained preeminent among English Bible translations were it not for three principal factors. The first is the evolution of language. In other words, word meanings, verb forms, spelling has changed over time, and the newer translations take that into account. Second is the progress of our knowledge and understanding of the original biblical languages, which has helped for newer and truer translations of the biblical text to emerge. So there are mistakes in the King James Bible. We don't create some kind of doctrine for infallibility of the translations. What we call for is the infallibility of the autographs. And again, the autographs are housed within the extant manuscripts. A third thing I should mention in closing is the discovery of earlier and better manuscripts. And these manuscripts provide evidence that conclusively points to the fact that certain inclusions in the King James Version were unwarranted, the most notable of which is the comma Johannium. And so I read about this in Has God Spoken? There's much more information, obviously, and it's presented in a memorable fashion.